Hi everyone, it's FSketcher fashion drawing tutorials, and in this lesson we're going to render this type of skirt, and actually we're going to render the whole look from Gucci Resort 2016. Well, the focus gonna be this pleated metallic skirt. If you need a template for this lesson to trace it or use as a reference, you can follow the link in the upper right corner and download it for free. Right now, as a base color, I'm going to use very light yellow. It's a primrose color of Pro Marker. Next, we're drawing as a guidelines for ourselves these stripes that are thin in the upper part and become more wider in the lower part. So right now, I'm using mid-tone, so it's a moss color, just very warm green color. Here I'm not gonna draw pleat after pleat. I'm just, as you can see, sometimes I leave some part lighter. Mostly I'm gonna make the lower area of your skirt darker and the upper part a bit lighter because of the usual lighting. As you can see, sometimes I leave these long stripes. It's the tops of the pleats, but you know, since she's moving, not every pleat is getting the same lighting. So here you can see I left some thin stripes uncolored. Basically, it's the top of those pencil lines. That way you can show that that's pleating. Otherwise, if we color everything with this moss color, it can be metallic skirt but not necessarily pleated, so we somehow should show that it's pleated skirt. The central area I'm also going to make it darker besides just the lower part, but the up as well, because the fabric there is just a little bit getting between your legs, so it's getting less light. So now I'm spreading black marker on solid surface and using burnt sienna. It's just one of the brown hues. So I picked light yellow, then moss as a green, then brown for the shadows, and then black. So basically I'm using 4 colors for this skirt. So as you can see, I'm mostly coloring in the lower part, and by drawing these kind of stretched triangles, or these what they look like, I just show that this is separate folds of a pleated skirt. So in the upper part, you see the central area, as I said, I made it a bit darker, showing those folds. So now I'm mixing brown with black and just making some folds darker, deeper. So I'm very often asked about the paper that I'm using. I'm using a marker pad, Winsor & Newton pad. It's just really soft and smooth paper. It's just perfect for markers. Adding more brown and green. So now I'm using actually black marker because the skirt is already quite dark, so this black will not look like very contrasting. So I'm just adding a little bit. So next, I'm using now pastel beige, but it's optional part. I just, you know, when you add extra color, it just makes it starts looking more interesting because it's as if this skirt is mirroring surrounding. So now I put a sandpaper on the drawing to give a texture. So now you can see that when I color with white pencil, and I'm not coloring randomly, I'm coloring on the top of light area to show the highlights. I put different sandpaper right now because before it was too grainy. This one is slightly softer. And as you can see, it just gives this effect of not very smooth surface of the fabric. And this Gucci skirt is exactly like that, so that's what I'm doing. Again, if you don't have a sandpaper, and here's what sandpaper is, it's just a technical tool that we use for home renovation, and it's quite cheap, so you can just use white and black pencil without giving this texture. Maybe your design doesn't have such texture, maybe it's smooth, right? So next I'm using white ink gel pen to show the hemline of this skirt, and adding just these extra strokes you can show again, highlight that is pleated skirt a bit more in the upper part. Alright, so I used marine for those green stripes, and I'm using poppy red for the red stripe. So this is very classic Gucci colors. For her beret, I'm using terracotta color. So it's like orangey brown. And for her, I'm just drawing a book instead of a bag or clutch. I'm just using the same poppy red that I used for the details of your sweater. For the shadows of your sweater, I'm using cool gray 1. Well, mostly showing this outline and folds. Next, I spread cool gray 1 on a solid surface and use Blender. Blender is a colorless marker. And again, this part is optional. I just think that if your sweater is not completely white but have some gray grayness, it will look more like the original design. Next, I'm drawing curvy, like, you know, those zigzaggish lines with a black pencil on her beret, with terracotta adding some shadows just in advance, continuing the work. And then using white pencil, just add some short strokes between those zigzaggish lines, so showing the neat work of your beret. Next, just adding stripes on those lines. Again, those parts are knitted. And just very soft highlights with a white pencil. Don't push too hard. Actually, it would be better if this fine liner was a bit darker, like a burgundy, but I do not have such a color, so I'm just it's not exactly the way that sweater looks originally, but anyways, so you can use a fine liner, or you can use a ballpoint pen, like just regular pen, anything at this stage, because you are not going to color on the top of it, and there is no problem of smudging anything. And I'm just drawing leaves. I'm looking at the reference image and just drawing something similar. I used the correction pen to make flowers on her book, adding some shadows, and we're almost done. Just adding extra shadows with warm gray 3. Adding some yellow. Let's add some highlights on her glasses. And here is the final result. I used orchid for her shoes. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. share your questions and suggestions in the comment section below. Follow FSketcher on Instagram for any news or giveaways. Like FSketcher on Facebook, subscribe for more tutorials, and see you next tutorial.